And Prime Minister Modi has arrived at the Hannover Fair for the joint inauguration of the India Pavilion at the Hannover Fair. There are visuals coming in from Hannover in Germany. It will be a joint inauguration by German Chancellor Angela Merkel and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. About 400 Indian companies are participating from India. About 150 CEOs will be present, and there will be an address by the Prime Minister to them as well. That's the India Pavilion that will be jointly inaugurated by German Chancellor Angela Merkel and Prime Minister Modi. This is in Hannover in Germany, the biggest trade fair in the world. All right, remember, today, later in the day, the focus will shift to Berlin when the Prime Minister flies off to Berlin, and diplomacy will take over after business nitty-gritties that we've seen in Hanover, and the Prime Minister's push for Make in India, with the Prime Minister promising to remove uncertainties and making a simpler tax regime for investors. There you have on your television screens Prime Minister Modi along with German Chancellor Angela Merkel, both of them present at the India Pavilion. Remember, India is a partner country at the Hannover Fair, and today the Prime Minister is inaugurating along with Angela Merkel the Indian Pavilion. About 400 Indian companies are present there in Hannover in Germany. 150 CEOs will be present when the Prime Minister addresses them. The Prime Minister making a strong push for Make in India, inviting investors to come to India. Let me now go across to Deputy Editor Smita Sharma for more details. Smita, we've seen the Prime Minister push for Make in India in Germany, but later in the day, we understand that the focus will shift to diplomacy from business.
Well, absolutely, Maha, but these days, in fact, it's more to deal with economic diplomacy, really, especially as far as Mr. Modi is concerned. We have seen him actively engage economically with all countries, of course, through diplomatic channels. Yesterday, both he and Chancellor Merkel, in fact, inaugurated that Hannover, must say, the world's largest trade fair. But this morning, in fact, as far as German local time is concerned, they inaugurated specifically the Indian Pavilion, which spreads across some 7,000 square meters with around more than 350 companies exhibiting there, and also some 4,000 German firms, as it's being called, in fact, the India's Vibrant Summit in Gujarat. We also saw, in fact, Narendra Modi make that strong pitch, trying to assure investors that India, in fact, that his government has eased out the business processes over the last 10 months, that they are maintaining fiscal discipline. Of course, how much of it is really convincing as far as the investors are concerned, we will get to know when the numbers pour in as far as the investments happen. But clearly, when he goes in, of course, those talks in Berlin, because from Hannover, remember, he moves in to Berlin this afternoon. That's where the strategic level talks will happen. Chancellor Merkel, in fact, will also be coming into India later this year for that annual strategic dialogue between the two leaders, where a lot of these issues, which including, in fact, perhaps Germany's increased role, active role in cleaning up the Ganges, or smart city projects, the smart city cooperation and railway cooperation, in fact, will be figuring large on that agenda. Maha?
All right, Smita, do stay on with us. I'll quickly tell our viewers also on the television screens, they could see the Commerce Minister MOS Nirmala Sitharaman also there at the India Pavilion. At the moment, Chancellor Angela Merkel and the Prime Minister are being taken around the India Pavilion, being shown around the innovations of Indian companies, the services and the wares of about 400 Indian companies. Smita, is there anything specific that India is looking at as the Prime Minister visits Germany this time around?
Well, clearly, the pitch is for asking German firms to come into India and manufacture, and that is why that Make in India alliance, which is in fact the pet mantra of Prime Minister, is visible across German airports and streets over the last few weeks. Interestingly, also, in fact, Prime Minister Modi will be visiting the Siemens Technical, in fact, Center in Berlin once he reaches there, because remember, a lot of vocational skills cooperation seems to be on the agenda as well, because of which the Skills Minister Rajiv Pratap Rudy is also accompanying the Prime Minister and seems to have a separate schedule of his own. But as far as, of course, that defense cooperation is concerned, defense co-production is concerned, perhaps not such a sweetener there for the Germans, keeping in mind that India has entered into that agreement with France's Dassault for buying around 36 Rafale jets off the shelf, and also highlighting that the talks with Rafale for co-production and manufacturing in India are still on, which means that the German Eurofighter does not stand a chance, at least as far as this round of tender is concerned, which the German envoy here in India was, of course, trying to hard sell before Prime Minister Modi departed for his European tour.
Smitha, also very quickly, if you could help us understand the headlines today read about how the Prime Minister has gone to Germany with his line, that is Make in India. How big a push is the government looking at as far as that concept is concerned? What is it as far as SOPs are concerned that India is willing to offer to the investors?
Well, as far as investors are concerned, definitely India does remain one of those places where you can find labor, which is much cheaper compared to, of course, other places. And India is now, in fact, wanting to offer not just labor, but skilled labor, really. That's why the focus, in fact, on skilled technologies. So if you see the PM's complete mantra, it's Make in India as well as Skilling in India, because increasingly India, of course, has competition from countries like Bangladesh and China, which clearly remains the manufacturing, in fact, favorite hub. And also the business processes, the red tapeism in India, in fact, complicate the investment processes, really. That's why the Prime Minister, in fact, having to make the pitch and trying to assure investors that they will cut through those red tapeism and try and ensure that there are single window clearances, that there are easier taxation systems. Remember when that Vodafone issue, in fact, the retrospective taxation issue reached the courts, it did much embarrassment, in fact, to the government's image at that point in time, which was the UPA. So these